Hello, Chris. This is Matthew, Casey's father.
Shit.
I got a couple questions for you. Well, more than a couple.
Go for it.
This is the worst intro I've ever done. Welcome to Derailed Podcast. This is episode 13. With me today is my good friend Chris of Stupidsmashbros1. Chris, how you doing?
I am dying, and I am doped up on allergy medicine.
That's good. Yeah, I lost my brother to allergy medicine, so be careful with that shit. Anyway, Chris is a good friend of mine. He's appeared in Mackle and Zatch videos. I think this is your first time on the podcast, but really, I just now started doing a lot of guest episodes. But, he's half of the channel of Stupid Smash Bros. The other half will be joining me next episode. Chris, tell them a little bit about yourself, what you do.
Well, God, man, I don't do anything anymore. If you asked me this, 4 years ago, I would have given you some excuse of something.
Wow, that's the first time I've gotten that response. I asked someone to tell me what they do, and they just laugh. Oh, no, Chris works on a lot of stuff. He's made a lot of stuff in the past. His channel's been a little inactive as of lately, but that's just because you're hard at work and ready for the next big project. I won't talk about it, but you've told me about it. You guys always got stuff going on.
Yeah, until something happens.
Life gets in the way a lot, but they're both incredible talents. I strongly recommend their channel. Of course, it'll be in the channel below. But me and Chris, I wanted to do an episode with you for a while, and one thing that me and you super frequently talk about when we're in a Discord call late at night. We just get into so many good conversations about Chris Chan. We really like to delve into this man's life like many people do. And recently, right when we were recording this, you mentioned to me that Genio Samuel was going live, and he's definitely someone who's been keeping me interested in Chris Chan, because he's been re-releasing the first 13 episodes of his documentary, and then he's going to get back into making new episodes. But I mean, I really enjoy his documentary. I really enjoy his format. It's really well made. Have you seen the doc? I mean, I'm assuming you have, since you know who he is, but how much of it have you seen? Did you see the original run, or are you just watching the new run of it?
See, I saw the original run, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I think it was really good, and I think that the new episode, him redoing it, I don't really remember the old ones enough to know exactly what's different in this one, but I once again enjoyed going through it. I think he has a very fascinating life. I honestly think I'm gonna, and this is kind of gonna delve into our topic that we're gonna discuss more, but I honestly think I prefer the earlier stuff, because I think he was more entertaining and fascinating to hear about before people started fucking with him.
Yeah, I was really just gonna talk about how well done Gino Samuel did the documentary, because it wasn't the first Chris Chan documentary out there, and it most likely won't be the last, but the detail that was taken into it is just crazy. And also the detail about Chris's life is crazy. I think he is one of the most documented people. Is that a correct fact, or is Chris Chan one of the most documented people?
I've heard some people say he's probably the most documented person in history, and I would seriously doubt that. That sounds like an exaggeration, but I would say, out of any internet personality, he's probably the most documented person, because, even though there's people who are more well-known than him, the Paul brothers definitely probably have more people who are aware of them, I don't think anyone has ever gone into as much research and detail, because you have that fucking Shane Dawson documentary on Logan Paul.
Yeah.
That's just significantly less interesting to listen to, and it's just stretched out to death than Chris Chan. You have Gino Samuel, who did 13 parts and is now redoing it, and I think mentioned on a live stream, by the time he's caught up to present day, he might be 60 parts, and he doesn't feel like he's stretching things out at all. It's just all interesting information.
Yeah, oh yeah. See, before we go into anything else, I just wanted to bring up my feelings on Chris Chan. I was about to ask you, what is yours? Before I start with mine, what is your feelings on Chris Chan, actually, before we even get started with this whole thing?
I mean, I find him to be a very interesting person to look into. There is just kind of the story of Chris Chan and his crazy life, and a lot of it's kind of funny, but at the same time, I can sympathize with the fact that a lot of people intentionally fucked with him, and I think those are cases where he can almost use, like, I feel like there are cases where you can almost use the mental disability as an excuse, like how he just believes everything someone tells him. But I do find it harder and harder to sympathize with him, just because it's not like he was a nice guy and then people on the internet like made him mean. He was, he was going around with those signs back then. He was getting into fights with the police at like malls. Like it's ridiculous. I follow him on Twitter. He has a blocked account, so he have to get his approval. I'm always respectful. I genuinely don't want to fight the guy. I don't want to get into a
I don't know about after today.
Well, I don't think he'll see this. I don't think a lot of people will see this, but we'll see. You
would be surprised.
Yeah, who knows? I honestly have no idea what kind of audience we attract with this, but I don't like Chris as a person. I think that there is like I don't think he can hide behind autism as an excuse for everything he does, but I think that's common sense. I can sympathize with the fact that there were people who were certainly not helping the situation in his life.
Oh, definitely.
And I do think his upbringing has obviously a big impact on everything, just like any person, really.
Okay.
But I do think as a whole, it's just, I find it hard to sympathize with him. I really do.
So I'm going to sound like a bitch.
You go ahead. Sound like a bitch.
And say that it's a mixed feeling of confusion, sympathy, and anger.
Mm-hmm.
Christian is like screaming at an animal, where it doesn't know better on some accounts, and you want it to know better.
Yeah. It's a little rough because there's so many people who fuck with him every single day, so I think it's like hard for him to trust other people.
Exactly, yeah.
But there are some people, if you like read his Twitter comments and everything, like there are some people who are genuinely trying to help this guy, or trying to be as calm as they possibly can, or trying to help him see the light, and he just refuses. He just completely rejects it.
Oh, definitely.
I don't think you can convince him that there's anything wrong with his life,
I think it's too late now. If somebody told him this way sooner with the beginning of everything, yeah, he could have probably changed, but I think it's way too late now.
Yeah, but even when he like just started appearing online, there were a lot of people trying to help him, being serious about it and telling him that all these people pretending to be girls online were messing with him, and he just never took it. I don't know. He's just a fascinating person to me. I don't have any ill wishes towards him. I don't have any ill will towards him. And I follow him and I try to be I don't even really comment. I just kind of read. I just read what he says, and because I am fascinated with the guy.
I feel like they can take this or whatever they want to, however they will. If they ever see this, I'm not taking an antagonistic route. I'm just saying whatever's said is said. Because here's the biggest thing, right, is that when it comes to, mainly Christian, I feel like a lot of people take more of an antagonistic route when it comes to topics on him.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
So I feel like this is just kind of, I don't know, it's just, I feel like it's easier for people to take it as antagonistic than just going, well, this is just a topic.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for me, it's just I really don't think what anyone says matters anymore. Like
that is true.
I'm perfectly fine with someone trying to be sympathetic towards him, and I'm perfectly fine with someone trying to fuck with him, because I don't think it's going to affect his life in any way. Because I don't think positive or negative reinforcement does anything for him now. I think he's completely living in his own world, and I guess to that extent, I support, trying to be a friendly person rather than a hateful person, but I understand at the same time acknowledging all the stuff that's Chris has done and not being okay with it.
So, can I mention one thing before we get deep into anything else?
Yeah, sure.
The time it took for people to fuck with him makes me really wonder what is wrong with these people, almost more than I wonder what is wrong with Chris.
Yeah. And I do think, if you listen to some of that stuff in the Geno Samuel documentary, especially the original run, because to where I am at right now, we haven't gotten to Blue Spike or anything, but people I think are more sympathetic towards him now than ever.
No, definitely.
Blue Spike was on the Kiwi Farms once. I was reading through it, just kind of hearing what a few of the old trolls had to say, because, you know, you have Casey, Liquid Chris, Alex, and Blue Spike, who have all made comments years later. And Blue Spike, I think I remember reading something like him saying, "I don't know, it's just like when someone called him out saying, 'What the fuck is wrong with you?' He says, 'I don't know, back then having Chris shove stuff up his ass was the funniest thing to me.'"
You know, can I bring up something?
But he doesn't feel that way anymore.
Can I bring up? This is gonna sound really weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Christian is the closest thing that I think we're gonna have to like a superhero-like story.
Mm-hmm.
Because of all of his antagonists, they're like so cartoony, and his like internet life is so cartoony.
For sure. Like, honestly, so Derailed is a movie podcast, and I want to keep that to kind of be like the focus of this episode still.
Yep.
But so like we were gonna talk about if we were to adapt Christian's life into a movie, because there's been a lot of movies like that. You have Ed Wood, like recently you have The Disaster Artist, Bohemian Rhapsody just came out, like these biopics. I think that Ed Wood and The Disaster Artist are like the ones that focus on interest in people, specifically people who had a vision and the response was generally negative, but there was still something unique and interesting about them that made them worth having their own film. So we were going to talk about if we were to make a Christian movie, because me and you have both said in the past that's something that we would be interested in doing.
You do not understand.
How would we go about it?
You do not understand how excited I am for this, because I've been thinking about this ever since you talked to me about this.
How serious are you about this? Because for me personally, I like to think about it and I like having ideas about it, but it's never something I would actually go through with. I think that there are people who know Chris's like history so much better that would do a better job, and it's not something I personally feel like I should take on. But what about you? How confident are you in actually taking this on one day?
Boy, that's a good one, because okay, so here's the thing, right? I would willingly do it only because of like how seriously I'd be about it is very. I know it sounds like kind of childish for me to go very, but it's because there's a story there that could be told.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if it's not 100% accurate, it's just there is a story there that you can put into a film, even if it's not like even in a documentary. But like we're talking about like Disaster Artist, I would be so willing to do it only because it's just so fiction, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Everything about him is so crazy that it's so easy to do, almost, you know? And I can see it being done. I really don't think it would go anywhere in my career if I did it.
I think it could very well someday be like the same case with The Disaster Artist, where it's just the right person finds it. Now, to be fair, as weird as a guy he is, Tommy Wiseau seems like an easier person to work with than Christian.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, you know, all that The Disaster Artist took to get it is good old James Franco and Seth Rogen seeing the movie and wanting to make a film out of it. Make a film out of Tommy Wiseau.
When it comes to, like, a movie, like a Christian movie, right, I feel that it'd be a great one to do because the protagonist is also the greatest antagonist. And having to do something like that would be an amazing challenge.
You know how, so let's ask the question about how you would go about it. Now, there's two ways to go about it. One, you focus on a small part of his life, or two, you try to pull a Bohemian Rhapsody and just shove every part of his life up to, like, a point in a, like, 2-hour movie where you just kind of skim through the different events of his life. Which route would you take?
Boy, man. See, I'm going to give you my heart answer and the logical answer. My heart is I'd love to put everything in there, but that would be impossible to be really good.
Yeah.
So I'd probably just do the small part and, you know, try to have a good way to narratively explain stuff up to this point. The better question I want to ask is, I want you to answer what you would do. And then I'm going to throw out the question, if you could do it, would you do a saga?
Like make it more than one movie?
No, like, which saga would you do of his life, if you could?
Okay, so the way I think I would go about it is like, I think you got to make, as much as people love the trolls, and like you said before, it's like it's almost like a comic book super, like a hero and a bunch of antagonists, and it's a very cartoonish story, Chris Chan's life. I think if I were to make a movie, I would honestly want to focus a lot more on the childhood aspect and into him growing up. And like, for example, I would want Bob to be a huge character in it.
Damn, yeah.
I would want to focus on the part that less people know about, and only the people who really invest their time into like researching this guy and watching the documentaries know about. Because a lot of people have heard of Chris Chan, PewDiePie did a video on him, they know about Sonic Chew and all of that. I think it'd be more interesting just watching what made him become the person he was when he first started YouTube. And you can I think you would want to throw references in there, sure, reference Liquid Chris and Blue Spike and all those people that had significance, but I think almost it'd just be interesting to watch a movie about the Chandler family and what went wrong.
Yeah, okay.
And you could create something really tragic out of that. Out of every single person in Chris's family, as much as some people think he's a shitty person, Bob Chandler I think is the one who has the most sympathy from people who look into Chris.
Yeah.
Some people even go as far as to say he's a decent guy who was put in a shitty situation, and others just find him to be more sympathetic than Chris and Barbara. And I think focusing on Bob trying to be this parent to Chris, trying to get him to do stuff, trying to get him to have experience of a life where he actually does have these life experiences, and just watching that all fall apart, that could be a very interesting and tragic film. And it's not all childhood, you go into his adulthood a little bit, but I'm just saying
what makes your idea great is also Bob is old, and his lack of understanding of what the internet is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Would be a really cool... Actually, tell the truth, you could even just make Bob the protag.
I think you could make him a protagonist, but I think you'd have to make him a very flawed protagonist because, one, there is, I don't know, there's a lot of people who hated him.
True.
Because he had some kids, that other kids that weren't very fond of him, and Chris did get his viewpoints, because he said some pretty racist and homophobic things in his days. I don't think he exactly believes in that stuff anymore, especially since he's transgendered now, but I do believe, some of his old beliefs, they came from his dad.
They did.
Or came from someone in his family.
But, here's the thing, though, right? As a person of color, right? I don't feel like just because those were his views and what he grew up with, that was his views of the time, and they don't fit with today.
Yeah.
But it was acceptable for Bob back in the day, and I think explaining that in your film would be a better way to do it. It's not that it's okay, mind you.
Oh, yeah.
That's just how it was back in the day.
When you're doing a biopic, you're just trying to display who this person was and be honest about it.
I feel like the idea of it being a Christian movie is good, but maybe talking about the family, or maybe it being an outsider looking in, which is going to be harder to do since there isn't much,
Yeah, I really do think that just the most interesting way to do it, though, would be have references to the trolls, have references to all the crazy stuff he did online, but make this movie about a kid who was high-function autistic, seemed like maybe had some potential of his creativity in school and a positive reaction he got from some teachers, but just how his own arrogance got in the way, and how, he didn't have the proper attention, and just how his entire life became what it was as a result.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Focus more on what caused it rather than what actually happened, because I don't think you need a movie of him yelling at people on the internet. I don't think you need a movie of the phone calls between him and Casey, or him and Liquid, or Blue Spike, or any of that. Because I think all that stuff is on the internet, and all that stuff is if you want to watch that, it's there for you. You don't need some actor to reenact that stuff. What you can't see is what led to it. So that, to me, would be the way to tell the story. And I think that'd be a way that you could both make a good movie that people who, have done a lot of research on this guy could appreciate and enjoy. And I think that's how you could get a lot of people to learn about who this person is, and maybe get curious and look up the stuff himself. All right. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Okay. So here's the thing. I agree, but at the same time, I do think maybe those reenactments would be cool because, yeah, you get to see it, but you don't get to see the oblivious nature of Chris. Wouldn't that be amazing? Right? For him to get off the phone call with Casey and to have that person act out how stupid Chris is to believe that this is really happening. Just to
I think
have.
you could have a little bit of that, but it just shouldn't be the main focus. Like,
Oh, definitely. I'm just saying.
I don't.
Whatever you get for Chris, it'd be so great to have that person have that disconnect. Because that's the thing that makes Chris kind of interesting is his delusional everything.
I think that you should have some of that, and I also think that, like, when it comes to the YouTube videos, like they do in The Disaster Artist, it would actually be kind of cool to try to, like, perfectly replicate that with the actor who's playing Christian. I think that'd be a fun little thing to do. You know, try to recreate that really crappy camera quality where all the footage looks either, like, super yellow or green.
Yeah.
And just have someone who gets his mannerisms down perfectly, but you could show that, like, I don't know, there's just so much you could show of his, like, behavior and outbursts before any of the internet stuff, because the internet isn't what caused him to be this way. The internet didn't help.
Oh, definitely.
But it's
like,
not the cause.
You know what's really cool is that there's so many scenes that I can see right now that makes this movie great. You know, like some of Chris's, like, the delusion of the family, of, like, Chris giving one side of the story from him coming home from school or college, and then his parents fueling that fire, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
having a scene like that, or, you know, because I feel like the other thing that's a problem is, Bob didn't know how to really deal with a lot of Christian's problems.
One of the most depressing things I've ever seen from any of it is just some quotes from Bob. One of them is, I had an interest in life. And that is just, I don't know, something about that. That is just one of the saddest things I ever heard, because he can't say he had a good life. He can just say, I had
interesting. Yeah.
I had an interest in life.
See,
Bob the lumberjack.
Yeah, you know, so okay, speaking of stuff that you talked about that they have you seen the one where one of Chris's trolls went to church with him?
I know about that.
See, I think that'd be cool to put in a film because Bob.
You could do that.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah,
I feel like it should be. I think we should do, like, because that kind of stuff is, like, something I didn't know about until I saw the, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I think it'd be great to, like, keep Bob as part of it as Chris is doing this stuff on the internet, you know?
Because, see, like, like, once again, I guess I've fallen in love with the idea of Bob the movie, but...
I think Chris should still be Chris should still be the main character. I think
Chris will obviously be the main character.
I like the idea of having Bob, this, like, person who is this very flawed person, as the main protagonist. Like, this is the best this movie has to offer as the protagonist, because of how fucked up this life is.
You remember, like, the whole shed thing, right? That Bob made for Chris?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and you could have some really fucking heartbreaking stuff because of shit like that.
Yeah, because, like, that's what I'm just... Because I get that Christian would obviously be the go-to for the protag, but, like, it's just watching everything fall apart, because that's, like, Christian is Bob's kid. That is just straight up what it is, and you only wish for the best. And to watch your kid just keep going down, and just, you know, it just sounds like it would be so interesting to see somebody do that, you know?
Yeah.
Also, like, some of the Christmases were very, you know, I get they were well documented.
Oh my god. You know. Oh, yeah, if there was something that you wanted to recreate from the old footage, you want to recreate that Christmas. I know what one you're talking about. Like, it's like when he was very early on the internet still, and he gives his, like, both of his parents, like, Sonic Chew stuff.
Yes, yeah.
Or I think he gives his dad, like, a video, like either a video or a DVD of, like, some kids show. Kids film.
Gives him, not only does he give him that, he gives him a VHS or a DVD version of it. Like, he gives his dad the choice.
Yeah, oh my god. I know what you're talking... That is such an uncomfortable thing to watch.
Yeah, and just imagine somebody, like, recreating that, and just it would be so... Oh my god.
That's like... Oh, that would be so perfect, honestly. You would definitely want to include that. I didn't even think about that. It's just... Because it just shows like, such a disconnect between all of them. And
you know what would be really great is that... Because, like, Bob clearly talked to Chris. And just to have that feeling of Bob trying to get through to Chris and just that wall of not listening, you know, would be, you know, like, I mean, there's just so much you can do with it, you know? Because, like,
Yeah.
for instance, Barb clearly had problems in this. So, like, imagine, you know, having a scene of Bob coming home to this cluttered house. His wife is just a Snorlax, you know? And then you hear faintly.
And yeah, the reason I keep like mentioning Bob over Barbara, you know, I really don't want to be too mean about this. Like I as many like things I can say about Chris. He's a human being. Yeah. Barbara's a human being. Bob was a human being. But yeah, she's just, all you can really say about her is she's just kind of laying around in most of the footage, you know.
Yeah.
She's not a very she I don't think she'd be a very interesting focus. I think all she would be there for is just kind of make things a little more just slightly more depressing.
But like, just imagine this though, seriously. You know, he comes home, house is a mess, Barb's just laying around, and you faintly hear Chris freaking out.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my God! Yeah, you should have him coming home like you could have him coming home one day, and yeah, Barbara's just laying on the couch, and then you just hear Chris in the distance. I want everything about my house off the internet, and then he just barges into the fucking room. Like, what the, like, you need to get that damn stuff off there.
Yeah, like,
he just has this fucking breaking point there.
Exactly. You know, that would just be so good, and I think it'd be really powerful to do.
Yeah. I'm honestly more and more like interested in the idea of just Bob being the main character now.
Yeah. It's only because, like, I get it. Everybody knows Chris, but you can add a little bit of BS to Bob, you know?
The thing with him, too, is that he isn't the most... I really think the audience could kind of put themselves in his shoes because he has his, like, moments, like, where he like, gets angry and worked up, but... He's an interesting person in the terms that he has a lot of stories to tell. Like, there's that one recording, like, really long recording of him and Chris and Emily at the mall.
Yeah.
Where you really hear... And also at church with the one... I forget what the guy's name is, but the one fake fan of Chris.
Yeah.
And you hear a lot about his life, and there is, like, an interesting backstory there. But as a whole, Bob is a very... He doesn't show too much emotion, you know? He's very calm at most times. It's not that he doesn't have anything to say, it's just he's not the most expressive person. So I really think people listening and watching could put themselves in Bob's shoes. It's just this character that you're going into the movie with just to experience these things, experience what living with Chris and Barbara was like.
You know what also would be a great thing? Is to realize everything you worked for is up to nothing. I know that that's depressing, but that's how he must feel, because he worked really hard. He did a lot of stuff in his life, and then it's just no peace, you know?
So yeah, it's funny just the more I talked about it. Like, I think you would want to call the movie, like, The Chandler Family or The Chandlers or something like that. Again, I understand people want... Like, I understand to some people it would be hilarious to have, like, Liquid as a main character. And I prefer learning... I mean, like, honest to God, the Trolls... Some of it I really like. Like, I really do like the Matthew phone call that goes on for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But a lot of the Trolls, I don't know. It's a lot of that stuff was just...
All that stuff can be put into the Chandler, you know, movie to a point, you know?
Yeah.
Because like, that'd be something that'd be interesting. Like, you know, the whole Casey's father call, I think Bob was still alive for that.
Yeah.
Imagine that being a thing where Bob's just like, why is he still on the phone for so long, you know?
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to force it too strong. I'd say just pick the good moments that really work. Like, I think all that shit off, stuff off the internet right now was a good one, and I think that the Christmas video is really good.
The only reason why I bring up the talking on the phone thing is because Bob sounded very paranoid near the end.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
that's why I'm talking about.
I haven't even seen everything. As much time as I've put into reading about this guy and watching videos and watching the Geno Samuel documentary, I don't know everything about Bob. I don't know everything about Chris. There's a lot more stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's why I'm watching the documentary. Geno Samuel's like covering as much as he possibly can, and I don't know too much. But yeah, I think that'd be the way to do the movie. I think. You kind of talked me into Bob being the main character, because I was saying you make Chris the main character, but you make it a focus about him and his father. But honestly, I think that would just be the perfect way to do it, because
Oh, yeah.
it's like really just experiencing life with this family when you're in Bob's shoes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I hope one day someone does it. And they don't have to do it the way we're saying we do it. They just need to know what the fuck they're doing. Because I swear, like, I could imagine someone just saying, yeah, it's going to be Chris versus Liquid, the movie, and it's just going to be the cringiest, most horrible thing ever.
Unfortunately.
Like, there was that one person recently, and I don't know a ton about this, so I can't really call this person out, but they were going to do a documentary movie, but they were trying to crowdfund it, even though there's people doing tons of stuff for free, and I get it, they got a Megan interview, and that's cool and all, but, if you already filmed it, then why do you really need to crowdfund your first movie,
At that point, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Was that the one that had the some of the trolls and the Megan interview, like a recent one?
Yeah, the advertisement, the promo, like, showed that he actually, like, filmed stuff with Chris. Like, he walked around with Chris and filmed a bunch of stuff. And it also revealed that he managed to get an interview with Megan.
Yeah.
Who was willing to talk about
That's
things.
The one. Yeah, okay.
And that's all cool. And I'm not saying that I know nothing about these guys. I have no idea. Like, they could have actually been passionate about this project. I'm not saying that they're just trying to steal money, take money from a bunch of people. But I do think when it comes to crowdfunding, you never want your first big project to be a crowdfund, because I remember listening to the Gino Samuels talking about it, because I actually really do like his stuff. I like his music too. Really, really, really impressive guy, honestly, with everything he does on his channel. But he was mentioning that, like, at one point he brought up, why is what you got more deserving of a budget than what I'm making right now? What is the difference? Because you could say, oh, it's to go out and film all this footage, but you already did that. So why are you asking for money now? You just gotta take time to edit and, take your sweet time. It's your first movie. If you get a big following and you prove yourself time and time again, and then you do a crowdfunding project where you're able to completely show your plan off, like, this is what I need the money for. This is exactly where it's going. I made this stuff. Give me money. I think that's a lot more reasonable.
Okay. I understand where Gino's coming from, but I also have to be an asshole here and bring up the point of Gino did more research, I'm assuming, but the guy, I'm assuming he had to pay these people for it, which is an on him kind of a thing. I feel like what he should have, if the crowdfunding should be explaining what he needs it for versus, anything else, I feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel that if the person explained why they need the money, it would have been a different situation. Like if they said, I want to pay the Chandlers and Megan for this. Yeah, I'd be like, okay, but
And I don't know all the details again. I don't want to talk about this too much because I should have done. I mean, I meant to look up more about it today, but just been busy all day.
Same.
So I don't want to talk about it too much. That wasn't even the point of this episode, so I didn't feel like it was necessary. But
no, but I think it was a good thing to bring up, though.
I think that the biggest issue with a lot of Kickstarters, I think Derek Savage. Do you know who Derek Savage is?
It's a cool cat.
Yeah. Yeah, Derek Savage shares a lot in common with Chris Chan when you get down to it. I think he's less sympathetic than Chris Chan.
And just like that, this video's gone.
Oh, he can try.
Just pulled up his
I challenge him.
No,
it's just like a lot of issues with people who do crowdfundings, Derek Savage being my main example here, is they go into it just knowing they could use some money to make this project, but they don't actually have a plan. Derek Savage has put up Kickstarters where they don't make the funding, so he takes it down and puts the same Kickstarter up for less money, and then doesn't even make that goal. He doesn't make the money back. And it's like, okay, if you're willing to cut your budget in half, or even down $1,000 or something, you said that was the amount of money you needed, and now you're saying, oh, I can do it for less. If you're saying shit like that, then you clearly don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Say whatever you want about fucking Mr. Enter's Kickstarter. Do you know who that is?
I don't know about his Kickstarter, but I know who he is.
Okay. He did a Kickstarter for a pilot for an animated show, and in my opinion, I do think he asked for way too much, but there was nothing scandalous about it. because he didn't make the goal, and then it was like, okay, then I guess I can't make it. Because he was he at very least had stuff planned out and said, okay, this is what I'm doing, and this is how much money I need for it, and it didn't work. And I've seen people who did an entire. I follow someone who did an entire season of an animated series for significantly less than he was asking to make a single episode. Plus, the person who made the season had experience. But, he was at least being honest with how much he thought he needed to make it and explained where the money was going towards. Derek Savage doesn't explain anything and then says, actually, I can do it for half of what I was originally asking for.
Yeah.
So that's why I think a lot of people get upset with Kickstarter projects. That's what I'm assuming happened with his, is he just didn't have he didn't have a plan and he was asking for money. Well, that's about all. I've said everything I want to say. Is there anything else you want to say about it? Because, I've been talking a lot tonight. If you can go on a tangent now if you have any ideas you want to get out there.
Actually, I really want to know, because I cut you off because I talked about Bob the movie. What would you do? Because I went on a tangent. I'm sorry, but what would you do?
Honestly, what I would do with a Chris Chan movie?
Yeah, because I didn't ever let you continue. I just went on my Bob the movie tangent.
I honestly felt like I talked about it more than you did. Like, I felt like I was, just saying so much about it. And then you kind of brought the idea in my head of making it more focused on Bob than I was originally planning. And then I grew to love that idea.
Oh, okay.
Like, you kind of altered my opinion a little bit, but in a good way. My main, my whole main opinion on all of it, though, is just focus more on the past, or at least on the family side of it. That's always been my opinion, instead of focus on the trolls and the stuff that he dealt with online. And the main reason for that, as interesting as some of that stuff is, as funny as some of that stuff is, and I do think some of it should be in the film, it's all online for you to see.
See, also, I feel the other problem with the whole trolls thing is, how would you really translate that in an interesting movie?
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be easy to tell, a cohesive story of all that. I think you'd be jumping all over the place.
Yeah, it's just, it wouldn't probably sound or be as good,
Yeah.
as everyone thinks it would be. Because, yeah, it's interesting in the moment, but, it would just be so hard to translate to film sometimes,
Yeah. Did you ever read that webcomic I sent you? I forget what it was called, but it was basically just going, Chris Chan narrating his own life from his perspective. But it was an honest...
Yeah, I've read it before.
The whole comic's meant to come from Chris's perspective, but it is, very respectfully done.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, he was really able to make something unique and interesting. Because, you can look at this and think it's it's giving Chris too much credit, or it's being too nice to Chris, which I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think people should be bullying Chris. I don't think that makes things any better.
No, it doesn't.
I do think that it makes for something a lot more interesting, because it really just tried to dive into Chris's personality rather than be a critique of Chris.
Actually, something else that I think would be a cool way to do a movie is if we just focused on the process of Sonichu. If somebody sat down and asked Chris to explain how this comes to be, and then somebody interprets that.
Yeah. No, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be the other way I could think of it being done, 'cause...
You could do, I think a cool way to do it with that idea, diving off that idea a little bit, is have Chris just record Chris for a few hours and, kind of cut it down into movie length. Have him explain his whole story and animate it, and just have it legitimately come from his own perspective.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about it that way.
I do think a movie like that, though, I feel like the Bob Chandler idea kind of appeals, it's something that anyone could pick up and watch. Well, that idea would be more appealing to someone who knows a lot about Chris already. But there's nothing wrong with a Chris Chan movie catering to good old Chris Chan fans.
Well, the only reason why I bring it up is because, it all started really with Sonichu. It's amazing I want to know where he was when he made some of these stories, I don't think he remembers, and he'll give me something completely different than actuality, but
Yeah, I think Sonic Chew was part of a project, wasn't it?
I think so. I'm trying to avoid the dimensional terms.
Oh, yeah.
But I just feel that Sonichu is so weird, and I want to know where in his mind, imagine Sonichu almost if you made a movie about him using it almost as a diary. of where it starts out focused, he had something, and then it just something in his life derailed it.
Yeah.
Do I get a check for saying that, by the way?
No, I think that's an interesting idea too, for sure.
I love how you totally missed my shitty throw-in term there.
I did miss something because you're cutting in and out occasionally, but I do like your idea. What was the thing you said?
Okay. I said, I just said derailed on purpose, and I asked, do I get a check for saying that?
Well, I guess for once I can be the one who tells the person who said it to go fuck themselves. Because normally it's in reverse. Normally it's someone telling me to fuck off. Anyway.
But
no,
yeah,
I like
it. I think it'd be cool to kind of have like this diary and then this delusion through the comic.
You know, it could be a cool idea. Pull a Birdman where you name the movie after a character who doesn't appear in the movie that much, and call it Sonic, and call the movie Sonic Chew: The Adventures of Sonic Chew, the Electric Hedgehog Pokemon, and then have Sonic Chew appear in like one scene talking to Chris.
That'd be terrifying. Make it like that realistic Sonic movie that's coming out.
I wonder how that would work, because, like, you know, I know Sonic Chew is a original character, but could you make a Chris Chan movie include Sonic Chew as a character? Would you get in some trouble from Nintendo and Sony? Or not Sony, like... Sega, goddamn.
I feel the thing about Sonic Chew is... Oh boy, man. Okay, here's Chris being super optimistic. I think Sega would be fine. I think Nintendo's the one you're not going to get to bend.
Yeah, I do think that Sega has had a sense of humor about Sonic Chew, especially if you follow their Twitter page.
Yeah.
They know who Chris Chan is.
I feel like... Oh, they definitely do. I feel like Nintendo definitely won't let you have Sonic Chew, but it would be really cool to have, I guess, break the rules on that one and feel the wrath of Nintendo. Like, it depends on how... Okay, it really depends, because we're talking about film, right?
Yeah, I think you might be able to get away with it. You might, because I've seen movies where they mention Mickey Mouse in the film without, obviously, Disney having any say in the film, you know? Like, I don't think that you would necessarily get sued if you put Sonic Chew in your movie, but I don't think Sonic Chew would be as important as some people would think he'd be in a movie like this, though, because I don't think Sonic Chew is the sole, like, he's not the sole reason that Chris is the way he is. That's just a character that's played a big part in his life, but...
You know, here's the thing, though. I think whoever makes this movie, I feel like you just have to have the balls to put Sonic Chew in there, because I don't think Nintendo will take anything. I don't think they want to associate in any way with Chris Chan.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Escape from Tomorrowland?
No.
Basically, a guy just went into Disney World, or Disneyland, one of the two, and filmed a bunch, did a whole story, and painted Disney in a very negative light, and then didn't get sued. Very ballsy move, and didn't get sued. Was not allowed to film there, did it anyway. They did it secretively. But yeah, maybe someone could just be ballsy with Chris Chan and put Sonic Chew in there.
I think they really should.
Yeah. Or maybe they could maybe the filmmaker could just put their own original character in.
Or it could be Bionic.
Yeah, put it in Sonic Chew's place.
Like, it could be,
put Asper Chew in the movie.
Asper Chew.
You ever read the comic Asper Chew?
I read one form of it. I read the spiteful form of it. I
liked Asper Chew. I actually did find it to be like such a ridiculous story that it was actually like an entertaining read.
Asper Chew. You know, that's the whole movie. Forget everything we just said. Forget Bob. Forget Chris Chan. It's Asper Chew the movie. We're
gonna make Asper Chew the movie. It's gonna be it's gonna follow the comic 100%, even to the point where there's no ending.
Yeah,
it's gonna end. It's just gonna end abruptly.
Yeah.
I really don't care for the Alex phone calls. Do you know what those? Have you ever listened to those?
Is that the guy that they used the picture for David Tennant or something?
No, Alex is the guy who made Asper Chew.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I didn't really enjoy those too much. It felt like there was like 8 or 9 of them, and all of them were literally the exact same thing.
So, real talk. Normally, when it comes to me dealing with Sonic Chew crap, like those phone calls, I normally sit and play uh, video games to him. So it's an interesting memory to, have that be a thing. So I
Yeah.
remember a lot of the phone calls.
Yeah. I don't love that many of them. Like I said, I like the Matthew call a lot. I think that one's really funny, and it also like really paints a picture of who Chris is. Like, that was one of the first things when I first heard of Christian. That was one of the first things I listened to. I thought maybe I'd listen to like 1 or 2 minutes of it, and I got hooked so quickly just because of how it starts off with. It starts off with Matthew being like almost like he can tolerate this guy. He has a few questions and a few problems, but he can talk to this guy. They'll be okay in the end. Just in 2, he is like just making as many stretches as possible to make Chris feel like shit, and is just constantly criticizing every little thing he does.
I feel the thing that's funny about Christian is that when you say make a movie, right? I feel like pitching it will be so easy because they can go, "Who's the audience?" And you could go, "Well, anybody," because he's somebody that so many people are intrigued in.
Oh yeah.
Like okay, Sonichu has become Chris Chan himself has become a part of me and Olivia's relationship. Like when we first moved to California, we actually stayed up in the middle of the night reading the Wikipedia at the time, just because this guy was so interesting to both of us, and we heard something about him and we went, okay, let's check it out.
You know what it is? Like, he's not super mainstream because most people have lives outside the internet or just lives in general, but it does really get someone's interest whenever you tell someone about him, whether like maybe like some things you tell them, like if you tell them about one of the trolls or like how this guy called him pretend to be a girl, like they'll like not be interested at all, but there's always something about his life that can get you interested in him. For me personally, it was Cody. When me and Cody were young boys, Cody told me that Chris drank his own semen, and I'm like, that's really gross. You're fucking lying. And then he sent proof.
See, that's the thing. That's what makes him interesting. Not Cody specifically, but hold on, I'm dying. But Christian is that when you it's one of those things of where you go, he didn't, and then you find out he did.
Yeah. A lot of people know him because of the GameStop incident.
Yeah, oh yeah. I know one of my favorite things that one of my friends brought up to me. He's one of my coworkers. I was telling him about Chris Chan, right?
Yeah.
And he went to too many games, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, I think I witnessed what you were talking to me about.
Wait, what?
One of my friends went to too many games. My coworkers.
You? Oh.
But one of my friends went to too many games.
Oh, wait. Oh, is that the thing that he got, like, security on him? Like, that was, like, only a year ago? Yeah, he curled
up into a ball.
Yeah, like a year ago. God.
Yeah,
God. This is why it's hard to sympathize with him. I feel bad, again, because he's a human being. I get that. And I know that me and you aren't helping the situation right now, but it's just like, what can you say to him? That's the one thing he actually apologized for. He acknowledged that he shouldn't, like, touch people like that. It wasn't the first time he's done it. It wasn't the first time he was told that he was wrong to do it. But he acknowledged he was wrong for once.
Nah, but to be honest, I heard that Christian was going to too many games, and I just was like... I was sitting there like, I really wanted to go. I didn't. But there's one thing I want to do in my life, and I don't know if I'll ever do it, but I want to meet Christian at least once.
I could go with or without it, honestly. I wouldn't mind meeting the guy, but I don't feel like I need to. But why do you want to meet him?
But see, because he's a part of my life that I never thought would be a part of my life. I never thought I'd be interested in him in any way. And there's always there's just so much that's weird about him, you know?
Yeah.
And there's still that stupid delusion of mine that makes me feel like this is all fake, you know?
I know that theory. There's
that believing and that moment where, and the thing that's funny is one day I will cross paths with him. I don't know if it'll be on purpose. I don't know if it'll be on accident, but you'll be like one of the first people to know. But I feel that that will solidify my truth if because
Yeah.
I don't. The thing that makes it harder is even if I do meet him, I don't know if he's if it's part of the character or not, or it's just you know what I mean. There's just there's that clarification I want, you know,
Yeah.
that I don't think I'll ever get, you know.
I don't think it'd be too hard to meet him one day, but he goes places. I guess my closing statement on the whole thing is out of all the ideas that we discussed, the Bob Chandler idea that's kind of a mix of my and your own idea is my favorite for doing a movie on him. I did when I was recording this, I was thinking we'd just more talk about the movie than him as a person because I don't
Oh, I'm
really.
so sorry.
No, it's no problem, dude. I want you to speak what you wanna. I want you to say what you want to say. But I don't really want to just go off about Chris and act like, oh, I'm such a better person than him, and oh, he's such a look at all this horrible stuff he's done. But he has lived an interesting life, and you could make a very, very interesting movie about him.
Oh, definitely.
And that is my closing statement. What about you, Chris?
So who we selling our idea to?
Walt Disney, because they're gonna own whatever company we sell it to someday.
And my closing statement is nothing really. I don't know what to say. Everything you said there was just great. You know?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And I also hope that Christian finds some form of peace. You know.
Yep, for sure. No ill will.
Yeah.
I don't respect a lot of the stuff he's done, but I don't have any hateful wishes towards anyone. If I ever saw Chris in public, I'd be very civil towards him. Anyway, Chris, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Just the channel, because stuff is happening. That's really it.
Yep. All right. So, yeah, thanks for watching. I hope this was an interesting change of pace, different topic. I don't think we've done anything quite like this one before. But, yeah, I had fun. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
Thank you for even making this topic come to my mind.
Nice. All right. No problem. Have a good one.